So this is the training. Well, this is the SOP version of it, which is what I recommend people go through. There's also a version of it as a course in the mastermind community, which is in Circle. But essentially, what local ops is just my process that I've developed and refined over the years that I've been doing local SEO. That is a repeatable process. The best thing to do is look at the checklist because this essentially shows the process that it's a repeatable process that, a systematized process, right? And it's done in a very specific way with in a very specific order, right? And the timeline is always, relatively close to what we're seeing here. There's sometimes there's a little bit of delay in the on-page optimization uh, kind of time, and that process sometimes causes a little bit of a delay, is what I'm saying. Depends. It depends on how much customization we're doing for a website. If we're building the website, if we're not building the website, then sometimes there's a little bit of a delay in dealing with the webmaster or the web design team, whoever is managing the site. But this is pretty typical time frame in that the time that we complete things. Sometimes it'll extend out here a week or two, but pretty much this is the timeline for how I execute things. And basically, this is, we've had a lot of questions from our mastermind members over the years about like, hey man, there's a lot of really good training in here. There's SOPs and blah blah blah, but I just don't know in what order to do what. Like, how should I sequence things and all of that kind of stuff. And so after I finally put it together. I just put together basically a checklist and for the mastermind members about a year ago, and then eventually, a month or 2 months ago, something like that, we developed a full SOP out of it. And so to kind of explain what I'm talking about here, this is the process that I use to apply to all local SEO campaigns, full stop, right? I only work with tree contractors now, but this has been developed through a lot of trial and error and a lot of testing over the years, okay? And so this is how I am able to scale my agency work because we have a very repeatable, systematized process. All of our services are productized. We do not do custom SEO proposals. We have basically our services, which are, they can be a la carte, but we typically, and we sell, when I say a la carte, meaning one-offs, you can sell them as kind of like add-ons and things like that, but that's not typically how we sell them. We usually pitch with front-end offers, which are, kind of front end simple services that don't cost a lot. But then we bundle when we ascend the client up to a higher, outside of the front end services. The front end services are really only to get establish rapport and a kind of a work history, right? Establish credibility and trust to develop trust with the contact with the new client. That's why we usually enter with front end services and start the engagement with an initial front end service, which is very inexpensive, which makes it easy for them to say yes to. And then through that process of delivering whatever front end service it is that they selected or chose or whatever, we continue to develop that relationship, build more trust. And then we eventually, the goal is to ascend them into higher level retainer plans, which is a combination of multiple services. Again, all of my agency services are already productized. So depending on what their retainer plan is, their subscription level or whatever it is, that just determines what is included in that particular plan. But they're all productized services, if that makes sense. So it makes it's much easier because instead of us doing custom proposals and everything else, we have set prices for specific services or specific retainer plans. That's it. And they can choose what is most appropriate to them based upon that data, right? Or the options that are available. And so once we have kind of ascended them up into a retainer-based plan, which is a more full service marketing engagement, right? It's not just one-off type of service. It's not just a front-end service that requires very little management or anything else. It's a full retainer package. This is where this comes in. Local ops comes in. The SEO system is how I deliver my SEO services, the deliverables and everything else that we provide as part of a retainer plan. Whether it's a low to medium competition, high competition, extreme competition, doesn't matter. It's the same process. The only thing that changes is the volume of the volume of deliverables. In other words, the quantity is increased with the higher level plans, but everything is the same regardless. That's why I can scale, because we have a very specific process developed with specific deliverables packaged in specific packages, and everything is SOP'd out like standard operating procedures so that We can scale by adding new personnel when needed, or as I'm developing more AI stuff, we can scale through automation and AI. But and in the meantime, as I'm still using SOPs, that's what this is for. And so I've provided all of that to you guys as part of local ops SEO system. All right. So the overview just talks about what it is. The training and resources talks about there's two different ways to access the training. One is in the Circle community. The other is in SOP format, which is what I highly recommend. This is much more efficient. The checklist here is just gives you an idea of the timeline and the specific sequence of tasks or whatever we apply to the campaign. And then here's just a kind of a video about selling local SEO services, which is, again, using this local ops SEO plan right here, you could go out and start selling local SEO services immediately. And you don't even have to know how to fulfill it. It doesn't matter. That's what this is for. And I give you in every one of these kind of these tasks or items here that we apply to all campaigns, I give two options here, right? Where they're going to give for example, on the analysis side of things, when that's always the first step. Whenever we take on a new client, the first thing we do is analyze their current digital presence. What does their online presence look like? Where are their deficiencies? Where are there things that can be improved? And then depending upon that analysis, we're either going to, or depending on what type of a company it is, the client is, if it's a new company, then we're just going to start off with a competitive link analysis because there's no history. If it's an established company, we're going to do a full SEO audit. And so here, there's just explaining this is the start of my SEO process, right? We do an analysis depending on what type of company it is or what type of client is, whether it's new, established, whether they've had a digital presence or not, all that kind of stuff determines how we start. So that's what this first module is for. If we're going to apply a full SEO audit, then there's two options here. There's a done for you option, which is meaning you can hire me or my team to do it for you, or there's training for how you can execute that specific task. A competitive link analysis, again, there's a done for you option or training for how to do it, right? Branded assets, once we've determined what from either the full SEO audit or the competitive link analysis, depending on what we applied to that particular campaign, then we know whether we're going to start with branded assets or a brand or brand builder. They're similar services, but one contains several more items plus a premium press release. One does not. So we then very quickly determine from that first analysis, what is the appropriate first step, right? Do we do brand builder or do we do branded assets? In any case, once again, we have done for you services available or training for how to do it yourself. So that's what this entire training is for. We go through every single item that I go through and the timeline in which I apply those items. And I provide you with either training or done for you resources. Many of them are through my own white label agencies, but some of the resources are through third-party vendors that I use. So I provide the vendor URLs. So it allows you to kind of choose your own adventure. You go out, start selling SEO services immediately, and you don't even need to know how to fulfill them. What you need is a process for how to apply what services and when in order to get that client results. That's what matters, right? You don't need to have to know how to do all these things. All you have to do is need to know how to sell it, number one, and then how to hire and manage the deliverables to produce the end result, the desired result, which is what you sold. Does that make sense? And that's what this is. This is a roadmap that you don't even have to know how to do SEO. You can still get results using the done for you services or the SOPs if you want to learn how to do this stuff yourself, which I don't recommend because you can build a much more profitable agency if you're not the one doing the work yourself. I promise you. Okay. So with that said, that's what it's for. Every single one of these steps here has two kind of paths. There's a done for you path or a do it yourself path. It's up to you to make the decision as to what is most appropriate. But if you apply for all local SEO campaigns in this order, the volume of what you apply or quantity of what you apply will likely change, but it's and be determined upon the variables such as the number of competitors, the population, all the other kind of stuff. The competition levels will determine what you need to apply, like the quantity of these items. But still the same process pretty much every time. So that's the local ops SEO system. It's very thorough, guys. There's when I say it's very thorough, I mean it's straight and to the point. There's no fluff here at all. It's literally this is what we do. There's a video explaining why I do this particular thing, and I, talk about the, recommended vendors or my own services or whatever it is. But that's it. It basically just goes through and explains this is how we do things. This is in what order. And here's my services or vendor services or the SOP if you want to do it in-house.